You make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
All right, welcome into Greenie Sports Cards Live, the world's first multi-stream hobby broadcast and live auction. If you are seeing us on a Monday night, you are not mistaken. This is our year-end special in review. Given the holiday tomorrow, we decided to go on a Monday night and take a look back at what an amazing year it was. And we can't wait to share some of this content with you. We did a little bit of a recap and look back on almost 11 months since we launched this enterprise with Greenie Sports Cards, going live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m., which is our regular broadcast time on multiple platforms, multiple streams. You're probably watching us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, the X, on LinkedIn, on Twitch, and other points in between. And we really appreciate you checking in with us. It's been an amazing ride so far. We want to go ahead and bring in the man himself really quickly because we have got tons and tons and tons of content to go over with you tonight. And with that, we will welcome in Steve Greenberg, aka Greenie, owner, operator extraordinaire of Greenie Sports Cards itself, your namesake. Greenie, normally I ask you how you're doing at this time of night, but it's been a year roughly, and it's been a whirlwind. Want to share some numbers with everybody real quick that we looked at. We launched Greenie Sports Card Live in late January, and it's been 50 shows. This past year, you've had 20 live events, about 160 auction hours with Alex, the auctioneer, and 56 guests in that time period, and roughly somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 items that were auctioned off. What goes through your mind when you hear those numbers? After what initially was, we just hope this works because we were trying to do something that nobody has done before. And here we are almost a year later and 50 shows in.
Yeah, it's when you read them that way and see them on paper, which we looked at earlier, it's really eye-opening to think of just something that we're like, you know what, let's go live, let's have a show, let's do an auction and see where it goes. And we didn't know if it was going to last four episodes, 2 weeks, a half a year. And, it's been a year. It's not slowing down. It's not going to end next week. So, no, it is. It's really eye opening. And I think even the other thing, too, is it might have been the show 2 weeks ago that the next morning you sent a text to us and you said we had 3,700 views. And, so not only are we just doing a show, somebody's watching it and they're tuning in, whether it's for a couple minutes or the whole hour, or they're watching the reels that Haley creates, or they tune in just to see maybe Adam go over the new products. I mean, somebody's tuning in and it's worth doing. And, it's not just for our sake anymore. It's for others.
That's right. It's for the hobby industry. And as you said, we seek to provide news and hobby news and information and special guests. And it was an amazing first year as well. We saw the dude checking in from Hobby Ohio. You can comment as well from wherever you're watching. Chaz was a big part of the team this year, and you can see the number of guests. Normally, I would do this at the end of the show. We have so much content. I don't want to leave it up to chance that we'll have time to do this. It really takes a village, Greenie, to make this happen.
Yes.
And there's a whole team of people helping Greenie Sports Cards and supporting it. And we've got Haley on with us tonight. That was a big part of this. Alex is an auctioneer. Adam Byers, day in and day out with you. Cooper and John. Drew and Will is a part of the tech crew.
Matt was with
Rachel,
us this year.
Matt was with us. Dan and Anna produced cards for you. The dude, as I mentioned, Mike and even Noah helped out a little bit. So I hope I'm not missing anybody. I'm sure you'll think of some other names along the way, but it took a village, and it takes a village out there of people who are watching, and we appreciate that. So without further ado, we want to get after it. We've had a number of shows since late January, as we said, and we kicked it off with Coach Kielsmeyer and Destiny Leo from Cleveland State University. Take a look. But what I did notice is also a selfless teammate and somebody who I believe from the outside is bought into the coach's system. What is it about Coach K that, as a leader, that has you believing and has this team willing to do whatever it takes to win?
You know, especially my freshman year, I really was able to buy into the things that Coach K was trying to get out of all of us. And I feel like me and him are very similar basketball-wise, not so much on other topics, but I feel like me and him see the game the same way. We love the game the same way. And throughout the years, we've just been building and building and building, and everybody that is on the team has been able to buy in to what he wants from all of us, and that's the reason that we've been having success.
Very cool to kind of come full circle. You were at the Cleveland State game yesterday, an epic victory. We could spend a whole show on that, but to keep it moving, talk about our friend Sean Crawford real quick and what he brought to the table here on the second show of Greenie Sports Cards Live.
I saw you went to games this year at St. Ed's and watched their games too. Do a lot of the players that currently play there, do they talk to you? They ask you questions, what it's going to be like on the next level, on how to get to the next level?
Yeah, definitely. Because even when I was in high school, when I was a sophomore, we had or when I was a freshman, we had a ton of guys go Division I. And then as I continued to get older, we had more and more guys go Division I. And so when they would come back to school, I would ask them, how was the first semester? How was off-season workouts? What's the difference between high school and college, the coaching, the schedule, all those different things. And so they were able to come back and relay those messages to me. And so now whenever I go back to St. Ed's or Notre Dame, I always try to give just a little bit of insight into just my experience in college and, want them to be able to start fast like I did.
Yeah, we enjoyed our conversation with Sean and all that he's done to help us, and we'll get into more with what he helped us get into with Notre Dame. But we also had a chance to hang out with our friends at Check Out My Cards. They came to our show, Great Lakes Collectors Convention, Andy and Jeff, and here's a little look back of our conversation with Andy.
Yeah, ComC has grown into everything over the years, cards, comics, and even more coming soon. So, yeah, it has really expanded into all types of collectibles.
Are you limited to only products that start with a C as the alliteration flows, or you can do other things as well?
Well, we're Check Out My Cards, my comics, my collectibles. It seems like C's only, so... No, I think we're open to a lot of things, and a lot of things that, coming down the pike later this year and the next year that's being kicked around. We will get into collectibles that don't start with C's, but currently only C's.
Got it. Currently only C's.
Yeah, it was great with them and the show that we had them at. And we've also had some other shows, and we really started to embrace kind of the trade night theme, which we did in Medina. And the big show and our friend Jason Gillespie, they're real big into the trade nights around the country. And we talked to them a little bit about coming to our show. Jason posted earlier, I bet you Steven's going to reach out about that. He's a big Jordan collector.
Yep.
You know, he's a big wrestling collector.
Yep. And just the fact that you know that, though, like that makes our space awesome that you know that. Like, you know what this guy collects. He's a teacher in Canfield, a wrestling coach in Canfield, and you know that where you're at. Well, that's the difference of back when you and I were kids compared to now. Now it's like, man, dude. So I love where the space is at. You know, there will be other elements that are criminal. You know that those elements will try to get in, you know, but because when there's money, there will always be other people to try to do it. But as of right now, for all the schemes that you hear about, 99% of the time, the interactions are really good from what I see. Maybe I'm fortunate, but most of the interactions are good.
Do you see that, Jason, when you're traveling, a lot of the interactions?
I agree with Big Show. Most of the interactions are good. You know, I try to focus on the positive as much as I can.
I definitely see the other. Too, but
yeah, that was a lot of fun with those guys. Big Show, of course, is a world champion in his own right, and Sports Cars Machine has been part of a number of Greenie sports car events. And speaking of events, we had the opportunity to go down to South Bend along with Sean Crawford and his connections there and involvement with the university, and held an event with the Notre Dame women's basketball team in March. It was really kind of a unique experience, right? You had Pop-A-Shot and experiential things and kids opening packs and GV Art t-shirts and chance for people to meet the team and get a team card set. But as a part of that, we had a chance to talk to Hannah Hidalgo, who at the time was on the verge of wrapping up her freshman season at Notre Dame in March. And now she's vying for Player of the Year candidate status. You had a chance to go down to Notre Dame a couple weeks ago and see them play against UConn. How has Hannah grown since then?
I mean, it's amazing. She is head and shoulders above a lot of players, offensively and defensively, and probably no more so for her defense, even though I think she's number 2 in the country in scoring. But I mean, as an on-the-ball defender, that girl is really tough to get by.
She's extremely tough defender, exceptional offensive player, and as we found, quite an exceptional person as well. Take a listen to a couple minutes with Sean Crawford and myself as we got to talk to Hannah Hidalgo.
Hannah, you're a freshman, and it's come with some pretty big expectations and some accolades along the way. You were 2023 USA Basketball Female Athlete of the Year. This year already, a 3-time Freshman of the Week, 2-time ACC Player of the Week, Naismith Women's College Player of the Year at the midseason. Sean asked about your makeup on the game. What is it about mentally that you've been able to step in this year as a freshman, a young player, and really kind of take this team and bring it together?
Yeah, I think God has just blessed me like with this different kind of piece, and I know I have a great coaching staff and great teammates that have given me this confidence that I'm able to come in and I'm able to play relaxed because they have so much trust in me. Like the first day I stepped on the campus, they were telling me to like shoot the ball. Like they had so much trust and so much confidence in me. Even as a freshman, they look up to me and they tell me like, we look to you for energy. We look to you to get defensive stops. And so that really means a lot to me, and I know for some people it might like be a lot of pressure. For me, it means a lot to have so much trust from my coaches and my teammates.
I'm sure you had a lot of schools like reaching out to you. You were a McDonald's All-American, and I mean, you could have picked any school that you wanted to go to in the country. What was it about Notre Dame that that led you to the final decision to come play for Notre Dame and come play for Coach Ivey?
Yeah, I mean, when I came on my visit, I just knew it was just such a family environment, and it truly like felt genuine. And I feel like Coach Ivey was the most consistent, and I see how genuine she was. I asked people about her, and it was all the same. It was like, what you see is what you're going to get. And ever since I've been here, it's been exactly that. I feel like she's just been consistent throughout the whole process, and even up till now. And she just, again, instills so much trust in me. And, she truly loves me with all her heart, and it really means a lot to me.
So Sean mentioned coming out of New Jersey, and here you are in South Bend, Indiana. What have you learned about yourself since the time you stepped on campus?
Yeah, definitely that I have a lot of growing to do, for sure. And just the people around me, my support system has really been helping me, like, with new lessons and, like, learning how to become, like, a young woman who knows, like, how to handle herself and, like, how to handle, other people in, different environments. So, and just how to handle adversity. I'm still learning, how to do that. And, us as a team have been through a lot of adversity, so I'm still learning how to cope with that.
Now, being a freshman, this shouldn't be your first time playing in the ACC championship and then, moving on into March Madness. What are you looking forward to about that? Have you leaned on your teammates on, like, expectations of, what it takes to come or what it takes to win? But then also, like, maybe reaching out to, like, a Marina Mabry or a Rike or even Maddie's sister who was on that national championship team. Have you, like, reached out to them or talked to them at all just about what's to come next?
Well, last game, of course, Drew Lou was there, so she was talking to me and kind of giving me tips and pointers of, like, what it takes to go to the next level, like what it's going to take to, succeed at the next level. So, of course, I'm always hearing, people who are, up there who've done this, and they're talking to me and, like, giving me tips and pointers. But, for us as a team, we just have to, kind of stick together. And so that's what's really going to get us to the next level. If we're sticking together and we're playing every game like it's our last game and we're playing extremely hard.
So in talking to some of your other teammates, Sean and I are from the Cleveland area. The NCAA championship Final Four is in Cleveland this year. Can you put yourself that far ahead? Can you look that far ahead, or do you have an attitude of one game at a time? And with that, how far can this team go, really?
Yeah, I mean, we have so much talent, and when we're all playing together, and we can make it as far as we want to, because I feel like the only thing that's stopping us from winning everything is, ourselves. And if we're playing together as a team, we can go so far, and we can make it really far. So, I have a lot of trust in my teammates, and we're going to get better, every game. And we're taking it one game at a time, and that's what Coach wants us to focus on, is just not even just one game at a time, but every quarter, just focusing on the first quarter and focusing on the second quarter. So taking it moment by moment.
You're pretty mature. I see why they let you play like 35 minutes a game. I was looking at it and even in the pressure moments with these questions, like, you answered them perfect. I mean, you look like you play like a senior and you answer like a senior. So it is really cool to be out to watch you on TV and to watch you play, go out there and do your thing. I'm really excited for this team. I do want to ask before we get off, who was that one player that you looked up to growing up as a kid and, even to this day?
Yeah, I would say growing up, I looked up to my cousin. His name was DeAndre Villamore, and I saw, like, how intense he was when he played, and he played with this fire, and I was like, he had so much confidence on the court, and I didn't have that confidence, and I really wanted that confidence to be able to drive and finish over bigger people, or, just have that energy that would feed off to my teammates. So I really looked up to him, and as I got older and started watching, women's basketball, I looked at Erin McDonald and how tough of a guard she was, just being so small and being able to finish differently and just lead her team. So.
Good. Well, appreciate you. I appreciate you coming to this event. We hope to do this a lot more. You're a freshman, so you'll be around here for a while. And we hope to connect with you more, but also provide opportunities for you to connect with the community and really take advantage of NIL. So thank you for coming out and, keep doing your thing on the court.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah, Greenie, she was really impressive.
She said that she has a lot to learn, and I mean, she's learned it real quick, because her second year has been off the charts, and we enjoy watching that team. And like I said, I went to the game a few weeks ago, and hopefully I'll get to another one this year. But I mean, they've turned us into Irish fans.
They have. A great group of student athletes. We got to talk to Maddie Westbell as well, KK, who we'll hear from a little bit later, KK Bransford. And Sonia Citron we got to talk to as well, and just against my better judgment, they turned us into Irish fans. But
that's right.
So that was a really cool, fun event, and then on the heels of that, another really, really cool event that has evolved in the last 2 years, the Great Lakes Collectors Convention, and we'll give you a quick time-lapse video and then come back and talk about that real quick before we move on. Greenie, that was the second annual Great Lakes Collectors Convention this past April. Next April, what are the dates coming up for the third annual?
April 25th through the 27th, 2025. Again, at the Independence Field House in beautiful Independence, Ohio, attached to the high school. So, yeah, we look forward to that.
It's a 50,000 square foot venue that will be the biggest regional show, collectible show on the docket, with the national moving on. We've got some highlights of the national coming up here shortly as well. But in the meantime, we got to talk to another special guest in the industry. Tell everybody who that was.
Rich Miller, and he writes Sports Collectors Daily. And I mean, if you're not watching or reading that, I mean, the stories that they come, investigative stories, hobby news stories, highlights. He puts on a terrific publication.
After a few years, I don't want to date yourself in the hobby, but if you've been collecting and writing about it all these years, what do you get excited about these days?
Yeah, I'm still kind of an old school collector back when I was getting started, even as a kid. And I kind of learned about what the adult collectors were chasing. We were all set collectors because there wasn't anything else. You couldn't buy a pack that had a jersey card in it or an autograph. The only game in town basically was Topps. Occasionally they would put out sidebar type sets, like in 1979 they did the little test comic things for one thing, or you could go and buy some regional sets somewhere that were issued by a team, or the Kellogg's cards were great for that back 1970 to 1983. They put those out where you buy a box of cereal and it had a card inside and you could send away for a set. Anybody that collects vintage cards knows about those, but for the most part, that was kind of it. So you went back in time, and the way you collected was, okay, let's get this year's set, and now let's go back and see if we can put together a set of 62 Topps or 55 Bowman or whatever you wanted to collect. And it was just kind of a matter of where you wanted to start. But that's kind of how my whole experience has gone. I'm still pretty traditional in that regard.
Yeah, Rich's Sports Collectors Daily is a must read, and he puts out articles all the time. And we were appreciative of him coming. And moving on to Brad Beeman, the Shipshewana Card Fest. I've had the chance to get to know Brad over the last couple of years, and I don't know if there's a nicer guy in the promoting world than Brad Beeman. And here's a little snip of what we talked about with him.
I could not have been more wrong about something in my entire life. People come for the trade night, they spend the night, and they come back for the show. Or they make money at trade night, and they pump all that money right back into the show.
That's right.
And so the trade night's been the greatest thing that we've ever done. I think it'd be hard for a brand new show without a Steve Greenberg behind it to pull off a successful trade night, on its inception, because you kind of got to get people to like the show first. But man, I would suggest anyone starting a show, promoting a show, once you get a few shows in, get your feet underneath you, that trade night can be a real game changer. And it's kind of the Wild West, at my trade night, maybe too much sometimes, but it really fuels the show.
And trade night they've done a terrific job of that. One of the mainstays of his show is Logan Harris, who we had on our show. And Logan was also a big sponsor of our very first Medina County Collectors Fair. And we had a chance to talk to Logan. Do you do anything besides sports cards? Like, do you dabble in anything else?
Memorabilia.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a bit. So when I was younger, and a lot of people can attest for this in the Cleveland area, me and my dad used to chase autographs very heavily when I was younger, and memorabilia has always been a big part of me and my life. I personally absolutely love it. It takes up a lot more space than cards too, that's for sure. But there's nothing like when you're younger meeting one of your favorite athletes, or somebody you looked up to and everything. Like, I remember meeting Derek Jeter in Cleveland at the hotel, or Mariano Rivera, and remembering like Jeter would only sign on the last day of every road trip. So it's stuff like that you'll always remember. And yeah, definitely love the memorabilia side of everything as well.
Cleveland was the city of champions once again in 2024 with the Cleveland Crunch, the Major Indoor Soccer League champions. Major League Indoor Soccer champions were here in Cleveland, and Greenie Sports Cards was a part of that as well with the team set that was created on behalf of the team. And we had a chance to sit down with Luciano Rasciuto and Ryan Ruiz from the Crunch and talk to them about the growth of the sport here in Cleveland.
You know, we see it with the streaming game streamed, and we see that the fans are there, and yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you've built the model, and you know, I think your fan base is only going to increase that way. You probably see it with the ticket sales.
Yeah, definitely. Steady increase in ticket sales. We've added more seats every year. We've got, creative, adding platforms, raising bleachers, seating to, just increase the capacity. And we're always just selling to a higher number. So I think we added nearly 200 seats this year, and we definitely sold all those seats every single game. So the growth is there. It's waiting. It's like a bubble waiting to pop. It's just there's no needle.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten a chance to get out to see the Crunch play, it's a high energy, fast paced professional soccer, and we wish them luck this season as well. The Crunch have kicked off already in the 2025 season. So continuing on, another partner in hand this year that joined the Greenie universe and Greenie joined theirs is Operation Fandom, in which a partnership ensued for the Medina County Collectors Fair. There were 2 editions of that show amongst the 20 live event productions that Greenie produced this year. So we had a chance to talk to Josh about his stores. He's got 3 of them in the region, and some of his thoughts on collecting and popular cards these days.
Yeah. Let's take Caitlin Clark, for instance. Are people coming in there and asking for her cards already? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yes. It is interesting.
What took you so long?
It is kind of funny because, we opened up as a collectibles and toys and all that, but at heart, cards is where our family started. So I always wanted to have a shop within a shop, and it's a blast to have, people. We'll have anywhere from packs of 89 Upper Deck baseball, pro sets, first year, you name it. We sell those older packs, and I bought some off you guys at that Great Lakes show. But people are coming in and talking all the time. When Adam was mentioning Paul Skeens, I think it is, from Pittsburgh, already had people asking for it. I was already ordering some of that stuff off of the Tops Now website, just to have stuff coming in. But Caitlin Clark, Victor Wembayamba, CJ Stroud, all that stuff's been hot.
We've had a tremendous relationship with Josh and Operation Fandom, and we can't thank them enough for their help. Turning back to women's basketball, which you hear us talk about that pretty much a little bit on every show. Coach Gensler introduced us to Talia Goodman of On3 Sports, and I jokingly called her the Woj of college basketball, because women's college basketball, she is the first to report anything and does a terrific job. And we got a chance to talk to her about the state of women's basketball.
What do you see for the future, particularly heading into next season on coming out of Cleveland in the Final Four? Where is this game going to ascend to next?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are no longer there, but I don't think that stops the national attention. I think we may see a slight decrease because they're gone. We may, to start off, and then it'll go back up again once people, realize that they don't need those 2 or 3 players to succeed in the game. But I think, it is only up from here in the future. I think visibility and accessibility are the big things that the game needs to focus on right now. I wrote about this a little while ago, but I think things like just making those games accessible during November tournament time, right? Like those Thanksgiving hoops games. Those are some of the best games of the year, and you got to pay for them. And I don't want to pay for him. I'm covering him. I don't even want to pay for him. So I think just making the game accessible will aid in viewership, obviously, a lot. And just getting people on board, because I think they're on board right now and you need to keep them there. You need to do whatever you can do at this moment to keep them, interested and entertained. And that's not for like lack of talent in any way, because the talent is, absolutely there and phenomenal. And I think it's just a matter of brainstorming what you can do to keep this momentum going right now.
As you can see by my shirt, which does reflect the 2024 Cleveland Browns season, it is not a reflection of next two gentlemen we are big fans of. GV Art, that created this shirt, amongst many other that I have in my wardrobe, as well as countless others throughout Northeast Ohio that proudly wear GV Art. We got to talk to George and Greg Vlasic about their originality and their experience in their shirts.
And so we have always kind of tried to go outside the box and really kind of, tap into what, again, makes the player cool and unique, or, what he's passionate about. So when we first teamed up with Nick Chubb, no one really knew he was into Batman. And I remember his agent going like, hey, he's a big Batman fan. And we're like, okay, like, let's try to do something cool. So we did a kind of Batman themed Dawn is Coming shirt with Nick Chubb. And it's so funny now that, like, it's the most known fact in Cleveland now is that Nick Chubb is a Batman fan. So I think we always have fun with those and really kind of, again, trying to tie in what, and get the player behind it, because it's something unique that they haven't really seen before too. So.
Yeah, their shirts are terrific. And some of them actually quite collectible, which leads us to our next guest, Darren Ravel, who you might have known from ESPN, but now founded Collect Media, and really it gets all the breaking news and all the stories, and really just has an entire conglomerate of collectible media in this industry. And we talked to him about really rare items.
Is the greatest George Washington in the world, the PSA 9, the only PSA 9 George Washington. I mean, if you want to buy it, it's going to be the price that I say, and if not, I'll be glad to keep it. So
that's there's a price on rarity. Yes, it's the actual item, but the word rarity means something, and there's a price on rarity. And
yeah, and I love dealing with in the land of no comps. Like in cars, you're going to hear the conversations at the National saying, hey, it's sold for this. I'll pay this. To me, that's not really fun. It's the 55th anniversary of the moon launch today, and if I show you Buzz Aldrin's lifetime pass, one of one, baby. So good luck. Or if I show you, the all access to firing up the rockets, one of one. Go just if you want this, I'll name the price and I'll sell it to you.
That was great stuff from Darren Ravel. We appreciate him joining the show, as well as all our guests, including Daryl Ryder, who is a co-worker and contemporary at Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. He is Cleveland's beat reporter, and he also voices a number of spots for Greenie Sports Cards. So you've probably heard him if you're in the market. So we had a chance to talk to Daryl about his extensive bobblehead collection.
You're not a card collector, but you are a bobblehead collector. And that's
I am
widely known in the Cleveland circle. And I know a lot of your colleagues know that. And, we know that. But how many bobbleheads do you actually have now?
I would say close to 170. I haven't counted them recently, but I've got to say I'm approaching 200 here.
Yeah, I know that your collection spans the Guardians and the Cavs. I know that the Cavs championship bobbleheads kind of mean a lot to you, right?
Yeah, those are fun, obviously, for obvious reasons. One of the local retail stores sold the entire team of bobbleheads, and I was tempted to buy the entire team, but it was like 15 of them. It got a little pricey, so I kept it to the starting 5. and then I did get the official Cavs championship bobbleheads, because you have to have the official
right.
bobbleheads too. So
Some might say, Jeremy, that bobbleheads are nonsense. And really, nobody knows nonsense more than this guy, Jesse Gibson of Sports Cards Nonsense.
There's nonsense and there's nonsense. So
it's nonsense within nonsense. It's inceptioning each other.
Yes. What is the most nonsensical thing that you've experienced on the show?
On the show? I mean,
what defines nonsense in the sports cards world?
Wow, now we're really getting inceptioned. I mean, what defines nonsense to me is something shocking or surprising that I would not have seen coming at this point. Because literally, like, it used to be, when we first started out, it used to be that, $1 million bounty on a card was nonsense, but now that's becoming more and more commonplace. You're seeing, especially since we did the podcast through 2021 and 2022, we saw all those kinds of prices. But even the fact today, we see those bounties are at least once a month, if not more often, are we seeing things like that.
Yeah, that was great stuff. And that was a terrific episode that you can go back and on our YouTube channel and you can watch that entire interview with Jesse. And then also our next guest, you hear him all the time in Canton. You've heard him in Cleveland for years and years, the roadman, Kenny Rhoda. And this is what we talked about with him.
Been around the Cavs for an experienced amount of time. Was just coming across some of these pictures as well. That he might have been in high school at that point, or at least early on in his career. I found another one I'll throw up here. This is a really cool photo. That goes back a few years.
Look at that stash. What was I thinking? I really don't know. My son laughs at me whenever he sees that picture of me and Mark Price. And if you look in the corner of the left with his arms folded, the legendary author
Terry Pluto.
Yes, very good. That is Terry
with
Pluto
hair. Some hair.
I know, some hair. I just saw Terry at the Guardians game today. But yeah, so Mark and I have remained friends ever since back in the day when they wore the what were they? The orange and blue delivers, hard work in town, hard work in. It's my favorite fight song of all the fight songs ever by Michael Stanley. So yeah, it was really good. But
yeah, Greenie, lots and lots of guests this year, and we're only a little bit of the way through it. We'll take a quick look here, but just an amazing run of people jumping in, helping out the show. You could see there, we had so much content this year, you couldn't even get to all of it with Dave Stewart and Josh Young and so many others. We got to talk to Pumpkinhead earlier in the year, and just you could see all the names running below there. And as Greenie said, you can go back on YouTube and even through the socials and catch all these shows of remarkable content. Speaking of remarkable content, Greenie was participating in the National Sports Collectors Convention, which came to Cleveland, Ohio, for I believe the 7th time, maybe 8th, in its historic run. It's going to be in Chicago for the next couple of years. Greenie was there with a presence, with a booth for the run of the show. And we also got to talk to a number of people. We got to talk to Carlos Baerga. We got to talk to Carlos Civitella from Golden Auctions, and just amazing content that came out of that. We'll give you a quick review of the National Sports Collectors Convention here with the celebrities that we got to see.
Greenie, it was quite an amazing experience at the National Sports Collectors Convention, and we are very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to be a part of some things behind the scenes on some things and get to interact. There was a couple of things that we'll take away from the National that I'll never forget, and people will never have an opportunity to do again. And here's a quick example of that. You got to spend a little bit of time with the Hit King there at the National. And one of my favorite stories, I shared a bit of this before in the past, when I had the opportunity to talk to Carlos Baerga while I was waiting back in what is the IX Center ballroom. It was a private green room area. There's signings taking place back there, and there's a number of people, athletes, celebrities coming back. And you're standing there in awe because Dan Marino walks in and he sees Pete Rose, and Pete Rose sits down, and Michael Vick walks by, and all kinds of athletes and entertainers, and Michael Irvin and Reggie Jackson's there standing there talking to Troy Polamalu. And while I was waiting to talk to Carlos, he's talking to Pete Rose, who's sitting in a chair, and Carlos is kind of leaned in talking with him. And I'm standing probably 8 to 10 feet away, and all of a sudden Carlos starts shouting, and he's going, "Ricky, Ricky, Ricky." Ricky Henderson had walked by and turned the corner, and Carlos yells at him, "Hey, Ricky." Ricky turns around and he says, "Hey." Carlos says, "Ricky, you don't walk by the Hit King without saying hello." And so Ricky Henderson came over and said hello to Pete Rose. They talked for a couple minutes, and that was just late July. And those two immortals are no longer with us. And you've got the all-time hits leader, the all-time stolen base leader, and what an incredible moment to have been there. And we won't get that anymore with those guys. So the National, special experience, Cleveland, Ohio. If you can get out to it in Chicago, and take in that event. Speaking of other events, Greenie, that wasn't the only one that took place in a major way for Greenie Sports Cars this year.
No, outside of our Great Lakes Collectors Convention, we did the Medina County Collectors Fair, which we mentioned with Operation Fandom. And a funny story about our next guest. I just spent Thanksgiving in a little town called Buffalo, Missouri, where my sister and her family resides. And I have a 7-year-old niece named Autumn who told me that her favorite movie was Scream at 7 years old. And she's watched them all. And I happened to tell our next guest, Alan Robinson, who actually wore the ghost face in Scream 2 and stabbed Jada Pinkett Smith. And we talked to him about that. The famous theater scene, you actually got to stab Jada Pinkett Smith, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
I was watching, and the thing that really took to me is Wes Craven said to you, you have to show these emotions, and you're like, I'm wearing this mask which doesn't show emotions, but you did every single emotion behind that mask.
Yeah, well, that's correct, and that was such great directorial advice, and I'll never forget that. And it was one of the first scenes I was playing Ghostface. Was in the theater, and the scene involves me stabbing her, and then she gets up and she goes down the aisle. She's wounded, and I go and I end up having to stab her 6 or 7 times, and that's where Wes gave me that advice and said, I want each time you stab her to look different. And I hadn't thought about it. I would just stab, but each time you do it. So it came from within to make this mask work.
My niece Autumn now has a signed Ghostface mask in her bedroom, but that was terrific. And our next guest was also terrific and remarkable. Paul Landis was a Secret Service agent on the night that JFK was assassinated. He was the Secret Service agent for his wife, but ultimately was in the car right behind. And the stories that he has from that night are something special. Take a listen to this. Something somehow motivated you to join the Secret Service. What was that?
after I graduated from Ohio Wesleyan, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a Bachelor of Arts degree, major in geology, and I had no idea. I needed something exciting, something interesting, and I was living at home. I had to join the draft, or I wanted to avoid being drafted at that time. So I joined the Ohio Air National Guard. I spent summer touring the West with a fellow geology major, basic training with the Air National Guard. I came home, hitchhiked to Pasadena in 1958 for the Rose Bowl. Came home, got a part-time job in a men's clothing store. And one day, Bob Foster, who had I known since day one in Worthington, he walked into the store. He had been in my sister's class and graduated from Worthington High School in 1948. And he walked in the store. He was, at that time, he was a Secret Service agent, and he was on President Eisenhower's protective detail. And he was talking about Secret Service, and I mean, it just clicked. He said, "That's what I want to do. I've got to do that." I wanted to serve the country, and I couldn't think of a better way to do it. I wanted to travel, the adventure, and that was the beginning.
If you are an avid reader, make sure you pick up The Final Witness by Paul Landis. It's really a remarkable book. He doesn't get into conspiracy theories one way or the other. He just tells you like he saw it from a firsthand account of somebody who was there on the ground. He broke his silence nearly 60 years after it happened. So our thanks to Paul Landis for joining us on the show, for joining us at the Medina County Collectors Fair, where a number of other guests as well. Was a really fascinating turnout of having Alan Robinson, who played Scream in Scream, and we had Cody Robinson there, who was Michael Myers and Pippi Longstocking and Jeepers Creepers. And we also got to talk to Patricia Peters, who you've seen on screen many a times and may not even realize it as a professional stunt woman. She has stunted for Michelle Pfeiffer in particular, at least 7 occasions, and a number of other actresses. But she famously was Catwoman in Batman. And we got to talk to Patricia about doubling for Michelle.
Yeah, people don't know that they are watching you on film, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it feels like the best of both worlds because, like, I don't have to worry walking down the street, like some actors do. Some of them, Michelle, man, she has to be careful sometimes, but I don't have to worry about that. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, getting to perform and do all these characters, and then also having privacy when you want it.
How was the camaraderie working with Michelle in those movies?
Michelle, oh, she's so great. She's a little more reserved than some of the actresses. She keeps to herself a little more. She's supportive, definitely. She's so talented. But actually, it's been about 5 films that I've worked with her on. Also, we did One Fine Day, Up Close and Personal. I did I Am Sam, to Jillian on her 37th birthday. That's a long one. So yeah, I got to do quite a few with her. But she is so talented. When we trained with a whip trainer as Catwoman, we both trained with Anthony DeLongis, who's an amazing trainer. And he got her to be able to take a cigarette out of your mouth with a 10-foot bullwhip. So she did. I also trained and learned these things, but boy, she did so well.
We've had a lot of terrific guests, a lot of terrific interviews this year. One of those in particular was the night before the Cleveland Cavaliers season kicked off. We had the chance to speak to Tim Alcorn, who is the radio play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Tim gave us some unbelievable insight. And the Cavs are now off to a 27-4 start, their best in franchise history. And Tim got some really He gave us some really good insight ahead of the season, particularly with Ty Jerome on how he would perform this year. And he also shared some memories and thoughts with us about his partner, Jim Jones.
And you have Jim Jones next to you as well, and you know, and I mean, listen, he's no slouch when it comes. I mean, he's been groomed, you know, to be in this position, and he has a tremendous experience from being, you know, on the Cavs. Then he went to the Lakers, and you know, to bring his knowledge of basketball. And Jim knows a lot about basketball. That's what a color analyst is for.
Yeah, you know, Greenie, you said it. He just has this phenomenal knowledge of the game. His time with the Cavaliers, obviously, you referenced when he went to LA. I mean, this is a guy that won a ring with Magic Johnson, with Kareem. He keeps in touch with those guys. I mean, just in casual conversation. I talked to Magic yesterday, you know, so he stays in touch with these guys that he won a ring with in Los Angeles. So, I'm blessed to work with Jim. But the other thing is, Jim and I genuinely, I hope I'm speaking for Jim, have a strong bond and a strong friendship. But we really enjoy each other's company, and I hope that comes across on the air. We're able to joke around a little bit, have some fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. When there's 5 minutes to go and it's a 2-point game, we're locked into the game. But you got to have some fun, and you have to enjoy each other's company.
Tim was terrific, no doubt. When he took this job as the Cleveland Cavaliers radio voice, the shoes that he filled, his mentor and Joe Tate, and we've had a number of guests in media. You know, we showed Kenny Rhoda, Darren Ravel, who was in media before, and we've talked to a lot of people. We got to talk to a younger guy, Nick Padone from Big Play, and Nick, a Kent State graduate, talked to us about what it's like working in sports media. It's not as easy as just, hey, let's grab a microphone and talk, and people are going to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Researching, you know, is huge. And honestly, too, like one of the things that I'm, you know, pretty passionate about is the storytelling aspect about this, because anybody and everybody, and this is part of what makes sports great and what makes specifically sports in Cleveland, Ohio so great, is everybody loves the Cleveland Browns. Everybody loves the Cavs. Everybody loves the Guardians, and everybody watches those games for the most part pretty darn closely. So everybody has opinions. Everybody, you could go to, you know, your local Marks, your local Giant Eagle, and ask somebody in the, you know, canned food aisle, what do you think about the Browns? And they're going to have a take, which is one of the fun things about sports. But you're right, you know, making connections with people, making connections with athletes. You know, when I was very young into my career and still at Kent, I had an internship where, you know, it was long form feature writing. And that's a challenge. You know, you're interviewing multiple people for multiple days, multiple hours. So there is so much that goes into everything behind the scenes.
Yeah, we appreciate Nick from Big Play joining with us, as well as everybody else you see on the bottom scroll here. Over 56 guests joined Greenie Sports Cards Live this year across 50 shows. Quite an amazing run. And one of those is a Hall of Famer. Ray Prisby is one of only a handful of fans that have been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He is a lifetime Cleveland Browns fan. And we got to talk to Ray on what gave him the bug to get started in collecting.
It's like he said, when you started as a kid, and this is exactly how it happened. I came back home once I got out the Air Force. I had never heard of a card show. So I took my son to a card show, and I'm looking at all these cards with the prices on them. And the one thing that jumped out more than anything was the price of the O.J. Simpson rookie cards. There were cards in there like $700, $800, $900. And I knew when I was collecting, I had about 20 O.J. Simpson rookie cards. So I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, hold on. So I ran to the phone booth because they didn't have cell phones yet. I ran to the phone booth and I called my mom and I said, hey, remember all my cards that I had? She said, yeah, I put them in the shoebox. They're in the back of the closet. So as soon as I went to the house and started looking through my cards, I was sucked right back into it. right back down that rabbit hole.
That's how it happens, Jeremy. That's how it happens. We've heard that from a lot of people. So great to have Ray and learn about his collection and what an unbelievable collection. Our next guest is almost a full circle back to Hannah Hidalgo and Sean Crawford. It's KK Bransford, who we had a chance to talk to ahead of our game that I attended at Notre Dame. But we got a chance to talk to her what it's like being a Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
KK, did the fact you went to Mount Notre Dame influence your attending Notre Dame University?
I wish it did. No, it didn't. But the fact that the proximity of it, I will say, like being close to home, has helped, and it's definitely a good segue. My principal at Mount Notre Dame, Karen Day, she loves Notre Dame and kind of has that connection of that piece of it. So it might influence.
You don't have to name names if you don't want to, or name schools, but were there any Ohio schools that made the decision tough for you at that time, staying in state?
Yeah, so I wanted to stay a little bit closer to home. I was always a person that if I found a place that could do the same of farther schools, there's some farther schools. I know like UCLA, I was in my top 5. So, and they were a really great school, but if I could get the same thing that I wanted closer, that was pretty much my goal. And so, yeah, so the Ohio schools, there's great Ohio universities with Ohio State and even University of Cincinnati, UC. So there's some great Ohio schools out there that it definitely did make it tough.
Greenie, it was such an amazing year. There was so much content that we can't even get to tonight. We were able to talk to Greg and Blake Williams. We were able to talk to Curtis Danberg and Tyler Danberg, and I referenced Carlos Baerga and got to spend a day with a couple hours with Dave Stewart out at the National and Josh Jung with the Texas Rangers, along with the dude from Hobby, Ohio, as he exchanged a one-on-one card. So you never know who's going to show up. We're going to keep this thing rolling into 2025. It's pretty astonishing to look back at these numbers, and I appreciate you and the opportunity to spend every Tuesday with you and plus. And it doesn't feel like work, even though it's been a load of work over the last 11 months or so.
That's right. That's right. And we've told people this from the get-go. We've known each other since we're 4 or 5 years old. So it's been a number of years, and here we are doing what's been in our family for that many years, and starting our own show and just talking about the hobby, of course, but sports in general. And we get to see these great guests that we get to talk to, and yeah, there we are.
And there it is.
That's our favorite picture. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's been enjoyable. Talking to everything from women's college basketball players to coaches to sports broadcasters to hobby legends and even new people that are joining the hobby. And it's kind of what it's about. It's something different. It's what we wanted to do, and we've been able to do it for a year. And hopefully next year brings us pretty much more of what we're doing and keeping it rolling and keeping the flow and 20 shows that we did this year. Maybe it'll be a little bit more in 2025.
So stay tuned. Make sure you join us every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. on your favorite social media platform. Alex will be live at 9 p.m. with the auction. Make sure you jump on that on eBay Live, and he'll continue. I believe he'll be back on Friday. And then after the new year, we'll resume our regular program schedule of Tuesday at 7, auction at 9, and then Thursday at 9 as well. Greenie, it's been an amazing year. I hope the cards continue to forever be in your favor. And I wish everybody out there a happy new year, and thank you for watching, and thank you for participating.
Yep. And thanks for everybody that helps us in front of the camera, behind the camera, and all around. We do appreciate everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.